Good morning, Jai Hind, Namaskar. Warm welcome to today's keynote speaker, Vivek Verma ji, and welcome to other esteemed guests who have joined today, invitees, Riversiders. Today's morning, I have before I proceed, I have two small announcements. First is regarding converting Rotary Club Pune Riverside into 100% PHF club. I'm glad to share with you that Rotarian Deepak Gupta and Sanjay Merchant has taken this challenge, and they are going to contact non PHF members individually and separately, and we hope that within couple of months we will be able to provide them pin. So that is the one. Thank you, Deepak bhai and Sanjay bhai, taking this challenge, and I am very hopeful that it will be done in your dynamic leadership. Second announcement is about Rotary District Carnival, which is scheduled for Sunday, 21st February 2021, from 9:30 a.m. onwards. The venue is Hazelwood, and the fee is couple entry is rupees 1500, stag entry is 800, children entry is 6000. It has been told that it is going to be very interesting because lot many district has put lot of efforts, and they are trying to make a big event during COVID, and they are taking all precautions that that protocol of the COVID is also followed. So my request to all the Riversiders to please register yourself. We will be sharing the link also very shortly. Since Prerna is not there, she is Prerna, are you there? She texts me that she will be traveling, so it will be very difficult for her to join the meeting. If Prerna, you are there, you join. Otherwise, I will request. No, Prerna is perhaps not there. So I will request Rotarian Sanjay Merchant, club admin and director program, to do this honor. So over to Sanjay ji.
Yeah, Colonel Saab, thank you. We have birthdays. I'll just take up the birthdays, Colonel Saab. I don't know anything else. Today is Ajay and Sonia's anniversary.
That's great.
19th of February is Aditya Mishra's birthday. 22nd February is Anuradha Mungi's birthday. Anuradha Mungi's daughter. And 23rd February is Colonel Saab's daughter Pragya's birthday. And also Vinay's wife Bhargavi Narsimha's birthday. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sanjay bhai.
Sir, can I interrupt?
Yeah, please.
Congrats to you and the proud parents for the newly born.
Thank you, Rakesh bhai. So nice of you. Thank you very much. In fact, it means a lot. In fact, we have been blessed by all the Riversiders, and we are actually enjoying, and we feel that we are on the top of the world with your all members and families' blessings. So thank you very much. Before going, for formal invitation to Dr. Ganesh Natarajan, Director Corporate and Youth Connect, for formal welcome and introduction of Sri Vivek Verma ji, I would like to place on record, and I would like to thank Dr. Ganesh Natarajan. He has been very, very strong link to connecting the world to the Rotary Club Pune Riverside. So thank you, Ganesh ji, for being with us always. And today also you have connected us with Dr. with Vivek Verma ji. So we hope that you will be doing the same honor in future also. And not taking much time now, I will invite Rotarian Dr. Ganesh Natarajan to introduce Vivek Verma ji and welcome Vivek Verma ji and all the other participants. Over to Ganesh Natarajan ji.
Thank you, Colonel Mishra, and welcome, Vivek. So, as usual, I will not read out the introduction because I think it has been sent by the Rotary Club, so all of you know it, but give you a more personal introduction to Vivek. Vivek, as you've all seen, is a phenomenal all-rounder in terms of what he has done in the corporate sector, which has been really admirable. And now what he is doing in, I would say, at least 3 different areas. One is, of course, in this whole area of public speaking. As you know, TEDx is a very important element of bringing interesting stories to the world. And he's a licensee for Hyderabad. So that's something very interesting. Second, of course, a lot of work with startups. So he's also part of this IIT Angels group. And as you know, angel investors are probably the biggest reason why startups are so successful today. And third, he is also an advisor to the government of Telangana. And Vivek, I would request you to talk about the very, very interesting work that Telangana government is doing, as well as you personally have so many successes in making Telangana what it is today. And fourth, and I think I can keep going on, but fourth and fifth. So fourth, I think the reason why I know him so well is we are both part of a group called Indus Entrepreneurs, which is really what started in the US, but today has spread all over the world, which is Indian entrepreneurs who come together and who are doing major stuff. It's called TIE. And TIE Pune itself has 86 or 87 charter members, okay, people who are successful entrepreneurs and who want to be part of the growth story of India. And of course, we also have a nurture group, which is multiple smaller entrepreneurs who are mentored by many of us. And Vivek and I are part of a global special interest group for the social sector. So it's called the TIE-SIG for social. And we are now working, in fact, immediately after this, Vivek and I have another call with various TIE charter members to really appraise them of what is happening in the social sector and how everybody can get involved in social work. So I think that's a very interesting one. Last but not the least, Rotary has also known Vivek for a long time because Vivek has been a Rotary Club president in the past. So I think we could not have got a better person. I just want to say that, Vivek brings with him amazing entrepreneurship, a very strong social heart, and a very strong track record of success. So with that background, I think he continues to do what he does. And Vivek, we're all looking forward to you. And thank you very much for accepting my invitation and joining this session.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ganesh. Thank you, Colonel Mishra, and thank you to all the other members of Rotary Riverside. And before I start, I just want to let you know that I have a very strong connect to Pune. So I have grown up in Pune. I'm like Colonel Mishra, like you, I'm a retired army officer's son who spent most of his life at the Armed Forces Medical College. So I have grown up in the AFMC campus and then in Salunke Vihar. For some of you who may know that address. So I'm very familiar with Pune. I've grown up in Pune, Kendriya Vidyalaya, Southern Command, Ferguson College, IMDR, ILS Law College. So pretty much all my education in Pune. I still have a house in Pune. So Pune is very dear to me. So when this invitation came, of course, Ganesh is a dear friend, but it's also the other interest to say, okay, I'll be very happy to talk to Punekars. It's always a pleasure to be back to Pune. And the other connect, which is what I'm trying to recollect, is that around 88, 89 is when Swastik, who's again a very, very dear friend. I've known him from college. He was a year senior to me. He used to be in a Rotary. Of course, he was not a president or anything. He was just a member at that stage. So he had asked me to initiate a Rotaract club. So I'm wondering whether it was Pune Airport or whether it was some other club. This was in the year 88 or 89. So my exposure to the Rotary world as a Rotaractor started in 88 when I just finished my graduation. So I've been in that sense again involved with Rotary since then. I didn't continue for many years after that, but when I came to Hyderabad, I think in 2013 or 14 is when I became a Rotarian again. And I'm very glad to hear the announcement about you becoming 100% PHF club. I would also advise, if you people are keen, you should also make your club 100% couple club. That's another a good thing to do. So maybe you should all invite your spouses also to become a member. It just helps the membership to grow. And so that's just a thought on what you people said. And thank you for inviting me today to talk on a very interesting topic, something which is very, very close to my mind and my heart. And over the last few months, Ganesh is aware I've been writing extensively about what I'm calling the co-COVID world. and when you people would have read the topic, some of you, I'm sure, may be wondering, we've heard about the pre-COVID world, we've heard about the post-COVID world. What is this co-COVID world? And I think that's what I thought I will talk a little about today, as I'm doing in most forums, because I think it's a very, very important topic. What I am propagating is that I think for those of us who are believing that the world is going to go back to what it was prior to January 2020, I want to break that myth and kind of shatter that thought for you that the world is never, ever going to go back to the pre-Jan 2020 world as it existed. Those are stories I think we can talk about to our children or to our grandchildren, that is how the world used to be. I don't think it's ever going back fully. Some elements of it may go back, but what I meant is that the world is never going to go back to that. And the reason it's not going to go back is two reasons. One, I don't think this is a virus, which is going to go away in a hurry. So it's going to be around for a while and maybe forever. Just the way flu virus hasn't gone away. All that we have got is that we have learned how to live with it. So virus is going to be around for a while. And even if this vaccination, where there is so much of wonderful work happening, for it to really impact the 7 billion plus people in the world, it's going to take a while. Loads of priority lists are there. By the time everyone gets through the first dose of the vaccine, some of us are already talking about, not us as in not me, but some people are already receiving the second dose, as I read in the newspapers today, which is starting. But for the whole population to happen, I think it's a while. And more important than the virus is, I think, some changes that have happened in the world are permanent. And I'll talk a little about some of these changes, which I don't think are ever going back. And hence I've coined this term called co-COVID. We have to live with the virus and we have to live with the changes which are almost permanent in nature. And hence it's important for us to get out of that mindset that we will wait for the world to come back to what it used to be prior to Jan 2020. That's never happening. So we have to get used to that and say, okay, some elements have changed. How do we live with that? And as entrepreneurs, as successful business owners, this becomes even more relevant, because some of us who are waiting, and I hope we are not, but some of us who are waiting for resuming business, saying that things will come back to pre-COVID world and then we will start. I think you will have to wait a very long time if you wait for any such this thing. So I think that's the key I want to talk about. But is this all bad? Is this co-COVID world such a bad thing that we should be worried about? Or is it something which is very good that we should get super excited about? I think the answer to both is no. It is not a good thing because it's obviously impacted the entire human race. It has taken away many, many lives. Some of us have lost some people either in our own immediate family or at least in our friend circle. So it is not good for sure. But is it all bad? Maybe not. There are some elements of it which are bad, but I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think it is about looking at it like an entrepreneur, and pardon my bubbling energy, because I am someone who's largely known as an eternal optimist. So I don't see a bad situation practically in anything that I've done in my life. So I always see what's positive, and so I'm seeing here too. So for some of you who are not as optimistic as me, I hope some of my optimism rubs off on you and you become a little more optimist. And for those of you who are already optimist, and I know Ganesh for sure is one of them, that I hope we can kind of come together and generate a lot more positive energy in this world, because that's what is needed as we emerge from the pandemic effects. Loads of opportunities have opened, lots of thinking, lots of mindset change has happened. So I think if we go back, and some of this may be something, we have heard multiple times over the last many months, but I'll share with you what my thought process around the pandemic has been. I think unlike any pandemic in the past, this pandemic, Rohit, maybe it'll be a good idea if you mute yourself. There seems to be some background noise. So I think unlike any disaster that happened in the past, which was largely restricted either to a geography or to a sector or to a few people, this has been one pandemic which has affected everyone around the world equally. When I say equally, I mean, there is susceptibility which is there for every human being. Whether you are the highly worth, super rich individual, or you are someone who's a pauper and a beggar on the street, I think everyone has got impacted. It's not something which is related to your socio-economic status, your geographic location, or your ethnicity or your caste or any of that. So what does that mean for us? What it means for us is that it has shaken each one of us. Earlier it would be that, okay, if I am a super rich, this isn't impacting me, so I can ignore this and I can move forward. But COVID has impacted everyone and has got everyone thinking. In that sense, the mindset for people has drastically changed in the last, I would say, 12 months. Everyone's focus now is on how do I protect myself, how do I protect my family, and then how do I protect my business, and then how do I protect my ecosystem. Usually that's the sequence most people have followed, and this really brought everyone to the core that I am now vulnerable. And I need to protect myself, and then I can do the other radiating protection going from me to the whole world. So that, I think, has made a massive difference in people's thinking. And I'm seeing that over the last 10, 12 months that, everyone's focus is on these things. And that way, I think the world has changed. And I don't think it is going to go back to us forgetting about taking care of ourselves. In a few days, I've just penned an article and it will get published in the next few days. I've been again saying that the self-love or the fact that I have to take care of myself has become so much more important. Many of us hear these announcements in the aircrafts when we travel, which says that when the air masks are dropped, you have to put on yours first before helping anybody else. We hear that announcement, but I don't think we were applying it as well to our own lives, which this last few months have taught us. So I think it's impacted everyone. It's got us to rethink about, some of the material things we were chasing. And I'm not here propagating that material things are not important. Life for us is important and it requires material things, but I think it's about prioritization there. And that has led to a lot of behavioral changes, health, the importance for health, our own health, and the health of the people who are close to us, important to us, our family members, our parents, our children, our grandchildren, as some of you already have, and some of you just joined that journey or started that journey. So it's impacted us thinking about that in a lot larger way. A lot of people have changed their lifestyle. I know many people who've given up urban living to find a method by which either they are doing a partial urban, partial, semi-urban, or a little away from the city living, or some people who have actually completely moved away from the city. And I don't know about Pune, but in Hyderabad, a lot of companies are also encouraging people not just to work from home, but actually work from your native place or work from village, as locally it's called here, because most people in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh come from small towns and small villages. So a lot of people have actually moved back home, and some companies are actually encouraging that. I know one or two companies who are actually giving you a slightly incremental salary if you continue to work from your village, because that way you're not kind of coming back and putting pressure on the corporate or on the city. But some of these, I think, like I said, the behavioral changes have happened. You may be one of those companies or you may not be, but at least in your thinking, the behavioral change has happened. And that brings me to, a topic that is very close to me, which is about entrepreneurship. And again, like Ganesh mentioned, I do a lot of work with startups. I also do a lot of evangelizing around startups, around entrepreneurship. And I use these two words distinctly because I don't think they mean exactly the same. I think startup, and this is my perspective, startup is an outcome of an entrepreneurial mindset, but they are not 100% equal to each other. I think entrepreneurship happens a lot beyond startups, and that's a philosophy I believe in. I think it's a mindset, which means it impacts children, it impacts homemakers, it impacts students, it impacts farmers, it impacts teachers, it practically impacts every human being. Because let's examine what is an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is someone who finds problems, who's able to find a solution to those problems, who's then able to see how can they be scaled. And then last but not the least is who's also able to monetize. So the first three are something that anybody can do. The fourth is what a startup does to say, okay, let me now find a method or a mechanism to monetize this. Now, if we don't do the fourth and we still find a problem, there is a leaking tap in my house, and if I put my brains to it, or my child puts her brains to it and finds a solution and fixes that and is able to create some method by which that can be replicated in the other taps in our house or some other house, so that is as much an entrepreneurial ability as someone who's creating a new fancy electric vehicle, or someone who's creating a new solar powered car, which is now going to be sold in the market. The differentiation is the first one is an invention which we've created for the benefit of us or our family. And the second one is where we've taken it further and said, okay, I'll take it to the whole world and I'll earn some money around it for myself and for the entire ecosystem, because then people will supply spare parts, people will start selling this, people will start servicing it. So there's a whole ecosystem around economics of that which will happen. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because a lot of times people get confused between these two, and I try and dispel that, saying that entrepreneurship has nothing to do with startups. Startups is an outcome of that. And which is why I do a lot of work with young entrepreneurs. So in the body that Ganesh talked about, TIE, I am also the chairman of the TYE, which is the TIE Young Entrepreneurs, where we actually go to schools. And I'm not sure if Pune runs this program, but this is a global program that TIE runs across their 61 chapters. Almost 35 of the chapters run this program. So where we go to 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th standard students and start talking to them about entrepreneurship, start talking to them about how to identify problems, what is the design thinking that they can apply, what kind of aspects of finding solutions can they apply, what kind of aspects of scalability can they apply. And yes, some of them also go on to make commercial enterprises. And I'm very proud to say that out of the TIE Hyderabad chapter, we have 3 startups who have come from these student entrepreneurs. 2 of them have a patent that they have filed and they have moved forward. And we are amazed. We are amazed at the spirit of entrepreneurship we see from these 9th standard, 10th standard children. If I go back to my days in 10th standard, if somebody told me balance sheet, all I would do is to try and balance a piece of paper on my hand and say that's the balance sheet that I understand. Whereas these kids are today putting together a balance sheet, a P&L, a 5-year cash flow statement, and coming and making some fancy presentations. So I would encourage that all of us should go and keep pushing this mindset change that we can do, because in this co-COVID world, I think that is going to make a massive difference. In all of these changes that are happening in each industry, we need new people to be thinking differently. If you look at education sector, for example, and I'm assuming some of you may be involved in that sector, I think that sector has changed permanently. For many years, we kept talking about an educational reform. I think nothing could do that what COVID has been able to do in the last few months. A lot of stuff has moved digital, which has forced the schools, forced the colleges to really adopt technology. Some of them were sitting on the fence saying, should we not? It's too expensive. I don't understand. My teachers are old fashioned. They will not understand that, this is not an effective mode of teaching, blah, blah, blah. So the list goes on. But I think in the last few months, all of that had to be scrapped, because if you had to survive, you had to do online education. And if you weren't able to do it, you would have lost all your students. So practically every institution, school, college, every institution is running around to find a method to get virtual, which means a lot of opportunities are opening. I know at least 10, 12 startups who are using this opportunity to bring technology, bring tools to students and to colleges to say, okay, here's how you can make your life easier. And here's what we can bring to the table. So again, if an entrepreneurial mindset is there, I will find a problem, I'll find a solution, I'll scale it, and I'll find a method to monetize it. It's as simple as that. And that makes a big difference. And similarly, you can look at other industries, entertainment. I don't know if the world is ever going to be going back to cinema halls the way it used to be before Jan, because all of us have got used to the OTTs now. All of us are spending some amount of time. The time can vary from, half an hour for some people to maybe 4 hours for some people every day on a Netflix or an Amazon Prime, or God knows how many more Hotstar and so many more OTTs which have come in. So the online content space is another space where loads of new content, and I hear people who are talking about so specific kind of a content, which means opportunities are opening up tremendously for them. So all of this is coming from that mindset that we have of about changing things and all of that. And when I talk about this entrepreneurship as a mindset, one of the examples I use very regularly, and I'm sure some of you may be aware, is that the best example from my perspective of an entrepreneur is someone who we all live with. And I say that the mother is the best example of an entrepreneur. And I kind of correlate the role of an entrepreneur or sometimes a startup founder to that of a mother. I would like to see a single mother anywhere in the world who will put her child to sleep without feeding the child. As far as I am concerned, it's an impossible proposition. Any mother, whether she is a super industrialist or she is a beggar on the street, will find something appropriate for the child to eat and then only go to sleep. Now, if that was brought to our startup culture, then the world would have been very different. Quite often we hear some startups who haven't paid salaries, or some places it's genuine, some places it's not even genuine. It's just a method for us to say I'm a startup. And that's just one example. If each of us was to go back to our days when we started walking, and if we were to ask people, because we may not have memories ourselves of which attempt did we walk, I can guarantee, I can bet my salary on the fact that none of us walked in the first attempt. But that's what the mother did. She kept telling us to go on. It's okay, you fall. You can stand up again and try again to walk. Some of us may have walked in the second attempt, third attempt, sometimes maybe the 20th attempt, sometimes maybe the 50th attempt. But she never gave up. And I'm sure she was frustrated, but she never gave up. Now, do we apply that mindset to the corporate world or to the startup world that we are all part of? Somebody makes 3 mistakes or 4 mistakes, and quite often the remarks are that this person can never do this again. Now, I'm not saying that we pardon people's mistakes, but I'm just saying the thinking could be very different to see what can we do to encourage that person to be able to, like I said, the metaphor, stand up and walk again. Sometimes they may have difficulty and they may not be able to walk, but more often than not, they will be able to walk if we apply that thinking to them. Similarly, just carrying one last example of a mother being an entrepreneur, irrespective of what is the money available to the lady in the house will run. There are people who in some months will have a lower budget and some months will have a higher budget. All of us go through those tribulations in our own life. But the house by and large runs because the lady has a method to find managing that equally well, whether it's the good month or it's not such a good month. So So, and that's what our finance heads in an organization should have to say, okay, what is my cash flow available? What's the funds available this month? And how do I tighten my belt to be able to run the organization this month? So like that, there is a series of examples I can go on, but I think that's a very important aspect. And I urge a lot of the students I talk to and a lot of young entrepreneurs I talk to, that we sometimes discount this and consider that she's not really going to be able to give me any solution. But if you go and actually have a conversation with the mother, I think it makes a big difference. Quite often we do get some answers coming from her. So that's another aspect I thought I will talk about from my experience. And then coming to something which is very, very close to my heart, and Ganesh alluded to that, after 30, 35 years of being in the corporate world, I now want to spend, I'm not as great a philanthropist as Ganesh is, but I want to spend my time focusing on the social impact space, because I think that's where big differences can be made, should be made, and more of us should spend some time. And that's why I do a role with the Telangana state government. We run a body called the Telangana State Innovation Cell. And about 8 months ago, I have joined them as a senior advisor, with my focus specifically being on social impact and social innovation. And as you may know, Telangana as a state is, in a lot of ways kind of thinking ahead of many other states in the country. We were the first one to have an innovation policy, which was created many years ago. We were the first one to create a government, very large government-aided incubator called T-Hub, which many of you may have heard of. And we have taken that journey forward with the work I'm doing now in the social impact space, because we have become the first state in India and one of the first governments anywhere in the world to have a social innovation policy. So I have actually, along with my team, drafted a social innovation policy, which we are adopting at a state level. The idea is to really bring social startups into Telangana. And the lofty vision that I'm working on is 5,000 social startups in 5 years. That how does Telangana house 5,000 startups? And it will only happen through the work we do by policy mechanism, by building a solid network. So we have a Telangana Social Startup Network, a TSSN, a body which we've been running for 5 months. And the Chief Secretary and the various government departments have been doing some wonderful work with us. And one of the great facets that we've been able to do through this work we are doing at social innovation, social impact space, is to connect the government with social startups. Quite often, we think that the social problems have to be only solved by the government. We are saying that I think the startup world can make a massive difference here. And how do we use technology? How do we use the academic institutes? How do we use incubators and the multilateral agencies? So how do we bring this whole ecosystem together and then try and solve the large problems which have a big impact on human beings on a large scale? So we do what we call a Government Connect program, where we curate startups who we think are going to be able to help government. And fortunately, we have a very, very strong relationship with the government here. I work very closely with a couple of principal secretaries and also the chief secretary. And then we line up these people to come and present to the government. And then they are able to take some of these solutions forward. For example, one of our startups who was working in the chit fund space actually put together an entire platform, and Telangana became the first state to have a chit fund platform. It's called Chit Monks, and they are now kind of expanding to the other parts of the country. The regulators are very appreciative of that space, because some of you who may be exposed to chit business will know that that's a business where a lot of challenges occur, because a lot of misgivings can happen, because it used to be in a non-transparent space. So like that, there are many, many more startups. So I would encourage again, if there is a way for you people also to look at saying, how can you work with governments? And with Ganesh, both connects to government, and I think many of you also may have connects, or with the corporate world becomes very, very interesting and exciting. I think the last thing that I want to talk about, which has happened through this pandemic, is I think the geographic barriers have all got broken. Earlier we only looked at companies in our surrounding with whom we could work. I think this last 10 months has told us that the boundary is the entire earth, and who knows, with all this movement happening with Elon Musk and with Tesla or SpaceX rather, maybe even people from Mars at some stage who we can collaborate with and see this. So the geographic boundaries have gone. Small companies today are sitting in one geography and actually collaborating with a geography which they have never visited or never acquainted with, but are doing wonderful work together because the world is virtual and we can all kind of talk to that and do a lot of work. And sorry, I said last thing, but there's one more thing I will add, is that a lot of times we in the social space especially, we all think that it has to be something big and something massive, and that gives us inertia. And we don't do anything because we think, oh, I'm not going to be able to make a big difference. I'm not going to be able to, drive a massive change. And again, I would like to share from my own personal story from Pune, where I think about 15 years ago or round about that, Rotary Club of Lakshmi Road. And some of you may know this gentleman called Sadanand Bhagwat, who I think then went on to become a DG in some year. I don't remember which year, but he used to be the president of the Lakshmi Road Club. He came together with us and we worked with an old age home on Sinhagad Road called Matoshri. And I've been doing work with them for a few years now, or maybe more than a decade now. So we set up a orphanage in an old age home. So this was an established old age home with about 60 elders living there. We came together and created an orphanage, a room, a dormitory kind of a room where 25 children could stay. And then we attached a child to the elders. So every 2 elders had 1 child attached to them. And that became within the old age home like a family unit. And it showed some outstanding results. Those children suddenly found a grandparent, elders suddenly found a grandchild. And I'm sure for those of us who have grandchildren know the joy of finding a grandchild, because when you're living in a role, and a few merit rankers came out of that school, or not school, that orphanage. So something as small, and this required, I think at that time, if I remember right, about 6 lakh rupees or so. So it wasn't something which needs to be at 60 lakh or 6 crore scale. After that model can be taken and you can scale it, but it all starts small. If we can make that small difference, I think that is where the journey that we do can start. And orphans or young children, again, is something which is very, very close to my heart. I have 2 daughters, 21 and 15. They'll both turn 21 and 15 this year, both of whom are adopted and both of whom are from Pune again. For some of you who may know an organization called Sophos, which is part of the Sassoon Hospital. So both my daughters come from Sophos. Sophos is Society of Friends of Sassoon Hospital. So these are typically children of unwed mothers who are put up for adoption. So I've brought both these girls from there, and I had to go and fight a bit of a legal battle to get my younger daughter because the law didn't permit at that stage. So I've been involved with adopted children, with orphans for a while. In fact, just day before yesterday, we were at an orphan here in Hyderabad, orphanage, at Hyderabad, having a meal with all of these young kids there. So that's what I wanted to talk about from a co-COVID world, that I think this world is now here to stay. These changes that have happened in the world are here to stay. If we can all in our own manner encourage people to have this entrepreneurial mindset, then I think opportunities here are galore. Some people like Ganesh have benefited when the Y2K moment happened, and it was very restricted to IT industry. And I keep saying co-COVID is Y2K for every industry. So if you're in the automobile space, this is a Y2K moment. If you're in the entertainment space, this is a Y2K moment. And of course, if you're in the IT, then this is a Y2K moment, version 2. So it's a phenomenal space that we see going forward. I think all of us can do our bit as Rotarians, as budding entrepreneurs, as somebody who's shaping the future, and especially on the social impact side, because a lot more focus is on social now. And I think that's where the mission of Rotary will also come in, to say, how do we combine success that each of us brings from our past and our razor sharp focus on making a difference to people's life through Rotary, and then combine that and make a difference. So with that, I'd like to kind of end my views. I know we have some time set out, as Colonel said, for interaction. I know it's been monologue so far, but happy to kind of have a conversation now and take it forward.
Thank you very much, Vermaji. In fact, it's very amazing, informative, and mind-boggling talk. Lot of takeaways there, but I would like to request Rotarian Dr. Ganesh Natarajan to moderate this session of question and answer session. So over to Ganesh.
Ganesh, you please moderate, but I'll ask the first question.
Okay.
And and Vivek, just I really like what you said, because to each of us, there's something else that rocks his boat. Like last time we had one of our amazing club members talk about the power of one, which was really, how you can make an impact, and it doesn't matter whether you're impacting 1 million or one person. Every life changed is fantastic. So I think that's where. So any thoughts from you on? I completely agree with you that the COVID 12 months has been an opportunity for all of us. Okay, some of us may have hated it, but at the end of it, I think we all see a better vision of our future lives. So any interesting stories you're seeing in Telangana about people whose lives are changing because of COVID that we can learn from the Rotary Club?
I certainly think, Ganesh, that I think the startup community, and especially, like I said, to a few sectors that I'm seeing where a lot of changes are happening. Entertainment for sure. I know of a few individuals who actually set up new entities, during the last 10 months. And they're doing some outstanding work in terms of generating very focused content. One of them is generating content which is meant for the education space. And the focus they have is that, so far we were all textbook-based learning, because that's been the traditional model and the traditional system of our education. And that has suddenly gone out of the window because the teachers are now talking to you virtually. And you have to look at your textbook, but the teaching is no longer using, the tools attached to a textbook style of. So they have created a very robust, interactive method of being a teacher, being able to talk to students. People have come out with 3D models which can be used to teach. So I know of a startup who's created a 3D model of the heart. So it's a physical heart that you can hold, the teacher can hold. But when she shakes it, it has an impact on the screen for the children to see. And then if you kind of open that up, the screen opens that up. So the students are beginning to see. So that's in education space. Lots of work is happening in the education space. I think the application of some of these fancy technologies, which were very elite so far, artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics. I think robotics has made a massive difference. I know of a robotic company which was struggling till a year ago and has now suddenly found so many use cases. The first use case they found was to look at mosquito repellent sprayed over a lake. And that has become a massive business for them suddenly, because they now use these drones, with a 5-liter or a 6-liter can attached to it, which goes over a lake and sprays the chemicals for destroying the mosquito larva. And now they have taken it to the next step with medicine delivery. They're taking it to the next level to see, how can we look at control of the spread of the disease or many other things. So drone is another space where I think some wonderful stories are coming out. There's this company called Marut Drones who's doing a lot of fantastic work in that space. So I think many spaces, people's lives have got impacted, and it's about people adopting to those changes and kind of moving forward, Ganesh.
Thank you, Vivekji. I would like to invite Rotarian Sanjay Merchant to moderate the session. Over to Sanjay ji.
I don't think anybody has any more questions.
No, you ask. You can ask.
Yeah, I'm asking, but
it's not just about questions. Some of you may not. And some of you may not agree with my thought, and that's always good to have a dialogue. It's always good to have a debate. So
those people haven't come today, Vivek ji.
Achha, okay.
Yeah, no. I tell you, Sanjay bhai, there are lot many questions. I can sense there is question from
Neeruji.
There is question from Anuradha. There is question from Anuradha. There is question from Rakesh ji. So one by one, I will invite Neeru ji to come over for her question. Over to Neeru.
So Neeru, before your question, I keep saying, Colonel, since I come from a defense background, and I use this example many times in the corporate world, that now is your time to volunteer. If you don't volunteer, we will do what we call the military style of volunteering. And Colonel Mishra just did the military style of volunteering, that Neeru has a question, Anuradha has a question. If you didn't have a question, you better have a question now.
You said it. Your session was amazing. But I can see on my screen very interesting spellings of your name, Vivek. So what is behind that?
So Neeru, the humorous answer to that is when you hit midlife, like I did about 10 years ago, you can't change your face, you can't change your belly, you can't change your wife. So the easy thing to change is your spelling. So if you want change, so that's the humor side of it, but it's based on numerology. I went through a very tough period in my life, starting in about 99, 2000 till about 2011. So during that time, there were lots of experiments that I did. One of which was to say, okay, let me change the spelling of my name and see what difference does it make. And I think it worked because I'm alive. I'm still alive. So I think the spelling change made a difference, but it's based on numerology. Many of you may have heard of this famous K phenomena from Mumbai. So I also consulted with them and changed the spelling based on numerology. I was born Vivek, Vivek, and then I became this about 15 years ago.
So you are finding change. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anuradha ji, over to Anuradha. Anuradha, are you there?
Anuradha, if you're speaking, you're on mute, so you'll have to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
That's the dialogue of 2020, right? You're on mute.
Anuradha? Anyway, by the time Anuradha comes, can I request Rakesh ji, for your Rakesh Relan?
No, the thing is that the best part that Vivek ji is talking about, keep yourself positive, and it's the mind frame which matters the most. Now in COVID time, if we are going to have this co-COVID situation, keeping the mind positive itself is the biggest challenge.
True.
And if you can share one or two live examples where the people have come out of this depression using some out-of-the-box techniques, that will be great.
So Rakesh, first of all, I think there isn't, sometimes we over glorify, things that needs to happen for us to get out of, depression is a very strong word, but out of, the frustrations or out of the challenges that we may have, and hopefully it shouldn't lead to depression, and we should be able to control it much before it leading to depression, because depression can lead to a lot of very difficult things for you, sometimes for your family, because if you take the ultimate step, that some people do, and we've been reading and hearing a lot about it lately. So I think a couple of things that I would encourage, and I work with a lot of people who are having these stress and challenge. I think one of the things that can happen, in which you people are doing a wonderful job, and a lot of what I call these groups of cohorts coming together are doing, is a fantastic mechanism of us having a buddy system, and if you have whatever X number of members, 20 members in the Rotary Club and in various other bodies, how do you become a buddy to each other? How do you become that 3 a.m. friend to each other? Because that, I think, is the biggest difference that can make in these difficult times. Even if we are stuck at our own homes and we don't have the physical bonding, and human beings are are requiring that. But I think we have all adopted to saying, like you and me are talking today and finding a virtual bonding. How do we do that? So that's one thing that I have seen in my experience, and I talk to people, and I know, I lost two friends in the last 2 years who took the ultimate step and kind of committed suicide, both very young, and not just about COVID. This happened prior to COVID, but for other reasons in their own life that they took that ultimate step. But I think it's important to create that, and that brought that to me, saying that, how can I become somebody who can sense that there's something wrong in people, either in their social media posting or in our interactions with them. We all can sense more often than not that something is going on. And if that happens, how can we hold ourselves accountable to not let that go? So how can I sit with that friend and say, you may keep telling me nothing is going on, but I'm not going to give up, because I can sense there's something going on, and I want to know, and I want to be available to help. And so that's one thing that I think has made a big difference. And I've seen a few where it didn't happen, and I've seen a few where it did happen, and then people came back from that point of brink. The second thing I think is also about, what I like to call self-introspection and self-thinking. Sometimes we kind of get into that vicious cycle of nothing is working, and I am not good, I am useless, I'm not able to make a difference, I'm not adding value, and then that vicious circle just goes on. So how do I break that circle? How do I break that cycle? And it's easier said than done. Thankfully, none of us have been at that stage where we were at our brink, but hopefully none of us have been to that point. But for someone who's at that point, it is important for someone else to help, because that person's mindset is very difficult to change unless an external help can happen. So my only suggestion, Rakesh, would be that how do you create a buddy system where you can talk to people, whether it's within the family or within extended families like Rotary or TAI or any of these bodies.
Thank you, Vivekji. In fact, I would like to extend my special thanks before I invite Dr. Rakeshji for formal vote of thanks for your unique and out-of-box suggestion to convert Rotary Club Pune Riverside into 100% couple club. In fact, that is the key, where we will not be struggling on that area. So I will request director membership of Anuradha to please take this in next club assembly, and we should decide and we should go ahead. Special thanks, Vivekji. In fact, it's a biggest gain today. Of course, your talk has been amazing. It's mind blowing, and it's a lot of takeaway in that. But as a president, this lead what you have given to me, I would like to extend my special thanks to you. Thank you very much. And now I would like to invite Lieutenant Rakesh Sarilan for extending formal vote of thanks. So over, Rakesh.
Thank you, Colonel Sahab. In fact, it was really very enlightening and very motivational talk from Vivekji. In fact, since childhood, we are actually practicing two things, and we are being told right from beginning that change is permanent, and necessity is mother of invention. So today we are going through the same phase. If we talk about Corona, that has changed the life of everybody, but then change is permanent. So this will also change, and we can overcome this situation. And necessity is like this mother of invention, which says that you have to have new startups, new ideas to overcome all these challenges. So these two things, I feel, whatsoever is, they are the permanent things that we have to follow. And what Vivekji said, that your positive mindset is the key to success and key to your living and happy life, which is going to play a very vital role. Vivekji, I fully agree with your thoughts. And in fact, if we have lost something, the question that I asked, that how to overcome that depression, is that we have to innovate. And that's how you have put it very rightly, that socialization and holding the hands. That is going to be the key to success for our survival and our positive mindset, which will lead us to find the solutions to these challenges. Vaccination is one thing, but then keeping yourself fit, keeping your livelihood in a fit manner to your expectations, and also to taking your nears and dears ones along with you and give them and show them the right path. That is what is the need of the hour. And this is what we are looking at. And I feel you have given a very right message. Thank you so much for your such a nice talk. And I pray that we are able to follow all these things that you have shown us. Thanks a lot, Colonel Saab. Thanks a lot, Vivek Ji, and everybody whoever has arranged this talk. Ganesh Ji, thanks a lot for bringing such valuable speakers to the club and giving us such wonderful thoughts. In fact, I'll say this is food for thought, which gives us more positivity in these struggling days. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rakesh. So I would only say that, we don't only need the virus vaccination, we need a mental vaccination and we need an emotional vaccination. So let us keep providing, and those ones don't come from the government or from Serum Institute. Those are the ones we can give to each other. Those are available in plenty with each one of us. So let us give people the mental vaccination and the emotional vaccination, and that will make a big difference to that world. So thank you. Thank you, Rakesh Ji.
True. Thank you very much. Before meeting is adjourned, I have a very small announcement. Next week, Wednesday, 24th February 2021, keynote speaker is Nilma Thota, and she is going to speak on global philanthropy. So I request all the members to please block your day, date, and time and join in large number. So thank you very much, Vivek Ji, joining us today early in the morning. I salute you for your, lot many things. It is said that every determination is negation. So I'm not going to say a few things and determine the things. You have given infinite idea. You have given, so many things, so many take away to the morning. So once again, thanking you. I will need your permission to close the meeting today.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Stay healthy, happy, safe, and blessed. See you again on next Wednesday.
Thank you.